Hey everyone, I hope you're doing well and welcome to my Galaxy Z Flip6 review. This year Samsung has made some welcomed changes to the Flip series, and at the end of this review I hope you will be able to determine if the Flip 6 is a worthwhile upgrade. So let's get started. The Flip series did get a $100 price increase this year, so it starts at $1,100, and the base storage is 256 gigabytes. So the first thing I want to go over is the specs of the Galaxy Z Flip 6. For the inner display, you get a 6.7-inch 1080 by 2640. It's an LTPO AMOLED at 120 Hz. And for the cover display, it's a 3.4-inch AMOLED with a resolution of 720 by 748, and that is at 60 Hz. You get the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3, 12 gigabytes of RAM, 256 and 512 gigabytes of UFS 4.0 storage. It comes with Android 14 and One UI 6.1.1, IP48 water resistance. For the cameras, on the rear you get a 50 megapixel at f1.8, a 12 megapixel at f2.2, that's the ultra wide, and you can record video at 4K up to 60 FPS, 1080p at 240 FPS slow motion, and 720p at 960 FPS. And on the front, for the selfie cameras, you get a 10 megapixel f2.2, and this can record up to 4K 60 FPS. You get a 4,000 milliamp hour battery with 25 watt wired charging, 15 watt wireless, and 4.5 watt reverse wireless charging. So now that we have the specs out of the way, let's briefly talk about the changes Samsung has made this year versus last year's Z Flip 5. It's pretty simple to sum it up. The Z Flip 6 has a design change, an upgraded primary camera, a larger battery, a spec bump, and the included AI features if that matters to you. But let's dig in and get a little more detailed, starting with the build quality. After about 5 days into my review, the Flip 6 started to make a popping noise while opening it. I'll let you guys take a listen here. This is not present on my Flip 5, and it does concern me quite a bit, and I'm not really sure what to make of it. Other than that, the Z Flip 6 feels great in the hand. Samsung has gone with a more flat design than the Flip 5. The frame and the back have a matte texture, which I do like a lot more than the Flip 5. If you rock the phone without a case, it will reject fingerprints better, but if you do use a case, and you probably should, this is a change you won't really notice. So other than the popping noise mine has started to exhibit, it's a very premium build, and I really like it. Moving on to the displays, let's talk about the inner display. The first thing I want to mention about the inner display is that it exhibits a rather major rainbow effect when you're using the device with polarized sunglasses. It doesn't really seem any better than it was last year on the Flip 5, but I did want to let you guys know because there may be quite a few people out there that, like me, use their devices with sunglasses on. So on paper, the Flip 6 has a peak brightness of 2,600 nits, which is quite a bit above the 1,750 nits of the Flip 5, but realistically, you're not going to see that peak brightness very often. And what matters more to me is what the displays look like on a sustained brightness. And so for me, when I crank the brightness on both of these devices, and I do use the extra brightness setting, for some reason the Flip 5 looks a little brighter to me, but when I use the devices separately, I never felt like the Flip 6 or even the Flip 5 didn't get bright enough. And so moving on to the cover screen, here is where the phone starts to become a real bummer for me. The same size screen as last year, and it's still a 60 Hz panel. There are a few other flip phones out there that have a better cover screen, like the Razer Plus 2024, and I believe the Xiaomi Mix Flip has a full cover display also. This is an area I was really hoping Samsung would make improvements in terms of having a full display and giving it 120 Hz. But it's still a nice cover display with good functionality, and it gets really bright. It's just not much different than the Flip 5. And I feel like Samsung missed an opportunity to kind of match what Motorola and Xiaomi and other companies are doing with their cover displays. So let's talk about the speakers a little bit. The speakers on the Z Flip 6 are a pretty noteworthy upgrade. They sound much more full than those on the Flip 5. Side by side, the Flip 5 sounds a bit tinny compared to the Flip 6. If I were to give the speakers on the Flip 6 a 10 out of 10, I would rate the speakers on the Flip 5 at about a 7. So a good upgrade for sure in the speaker department. Now for performance. This year the Z Flip 6 has a large vapor chamber which will help in the cooling department. During Geekbench 6 I recorded a max temp of 38.6 Celsius on the Flip 5 and 35.8 Celsius on the Flip 6, so it's always a welcome change to have better cooling. but in the day-to-day usage, I'm not sure how much the vapor chamber will really make a difference. The Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 and 12GB of RAM means the Flip 6 has the power to do pretty much anything you'd want to do. If you mainly use your phone for regular daily tasks, you won't notice those being much faster. If you're a gamer or do any sort of content creation, those are the areas where the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 will outshine last year's Gen 2. I was hoping for 16GB of RAM this year, but I guess it wouldn't make much sense for the Z series devices to have more RAM than the S series, but 12GB is plenty enough. So in terms of performance, the Flip 6 should age very well. And now for the software. Starting with the Flip 6 and Z Fold 6, Samsung is promising 7 years of Android updates. This is good to see because if someone plans to keep one of these devices long term, it will still be up to date in 2031. For me, in my opinion, on 7 years of updates, it doesn't really matter, and if you want to know more, then watch the video in the top right corner. The biggest software difference is that the Z6 series devices are shipping with Galaxy AI, but instead of covering every single AI feature and making this review super long, I'm going to make a dedicated video to all of the AI features, so stay tuned for that. My quick opinion on these features, though, is that they are very cool and they work surprisingly well. The two main AI features that I could see myself using is the Browsing Assist to get a summary of an article I'm reading, the Note Assist feature to make my notes more organized and better formatted, and Chat Assist to also help me with formatting my messages depending on who I'm talking to. As far as the others, though, they aren't as useful to me, but they may be to you, so again, stay tuned for the full AI feature video. Now let's talk about battery life. On the Z Flip 6, battery life is much improved in my experience. I'm glad Samsung increased the battery to 4,000 milliamps from 3,700. Along with the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3, this makes for a nice upgrade in the battery department. I do strongly believe we need faster charging, and it's really disappointing to see Samsung miss the opportunity to do so this year. Charging is still capped at 25 watts. And I feel like we need at least 40-watt charging. 1 hour and 17 minutes to charge from 20% to 100%. Definitely spoiled by the OnePlus. That's why this is one of my favorite phones I've ever had, and of 2024. I can charge the OnePlus from 2% to 100% in 34 minutes. We need faster charging, Samsung. Come on. If we take a look here, I recorded my average percentage battery drain per hour over a 6-day period for both the Z Flip 5 and Z Flip 6. And if I round up to the next number, the Z Flip 5 averaged 15% per hour of battery drain in my usage, while the Z Flip 6 averaged 10%. Now keep in mind, this isn't a completely scientific apples-to-apples comparison, so there will be a bit of error. But I feel totally comfortable saying the Z Flip 6 gets an hour more of screen on time, maybe even an hour and a half. So a good boost to battery life this year, but Samsung, we do need faster charging. So let's wrap up this review. The Flip 6 is a great device. It's well optimized. It has tons of features and customizations that will satisfy almost anyone. For me though, I still struggle to understand the appeal of the cover display. It does have a lot of functionality, but I still feel limited while using it. And I've never had the thought of, let me do this on a smaller screen, cross my mind. For some people, I believe having a small display with lots of functionality and the fact that it sips on battery is very intriguing, but you could always just set the inner display refresh rate to 60 Hz and have great battery life if that is a major concern. The tasks that you can quickly do on the cover display can be done just as efficiently using the phone unfolded. So this is why I struggle to understand the appeal of the cover display, but overall, I can say it's good. It's just not very handy for me. So I would recommend passing on the Flip 6 if you have a Flip 5, but if you have a Flip 4 or older, this is a really nice upgrade, and I think you should definitely upgrade. And that's going to do it for the Z Flip 6 review. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.